there's one word which I understood from them, which was trustology, so I hope I had a pleasant introduction, but I'll find out from my friends if I did. Good afternoon, guys. What a pleasure it is to be back in Shanghai, third year in a row, so thank you so much for Block Labs for inviting me once again to present here. I'm Alex Batlin. I'm founder and CEO of Trustology. And Trustology is a startup that is focused and obsessed about securing your crypto assets. That's what we do, which is also a really good coincidence because that's the topic of today's presentations. So let's delve in and see what we do about this. Just like most of you guys here, I fell in love with the idea of this decentralization concept once I discovered Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other blockchain solutions. It is pretty awesome. Previously, I worked for UBS. I also worked for BNY Mellon, and there are many inherent risks with centralized bookkeeping. Some of those risks come down from operational risks. Some of those are monopoly risks. So decentralizing bookkeeping actually creates a much more resilient infrastructure, which I think most people like the idea of. But just like Spider-Man once said, I'm sure it wasn't Spider-Man, but with great power comes great responsibility. You can check my quotes. Anyway, so the point being here is that there is no longer there's no parental supervision to reset your password. Blockchains don't reset passwords. Also, if you create the wrong transaction because of fraudulent behavior or some sort of malpractice, blockchains don't reverse transactions. There is no one to call. So the problem is now, securing assets becomes your problem, not the bank's problem. And people like to kind of say all sorts of things about banks, but the problem is when you do have a problem, you still call them up. So, what happens next is that there are a couple of challenges that come about from having to manage the security of the assets yourself. First of all, there are physical and cyber attacks on the keys that you have to store. And if you lose the keys, whether they're lost through simply you misplacing them or they're stolen, then you lost effectively assets that are under your management. And safekeeping keys from physical and cyber attacks, it's actually quite troublesome. It sounds simple, but once you start getting into the detail, there's so many little caveats that you start to sweat every night. I was in the World Economic Forum a while ago, last year, and there's a chap came in, and he told me how he had 10 million Bitcoins worth of US dollars on the ledger around his neck, and he was very proud of it. And I simply asked him, which hotel are you staying in? 5 minutes later, he came back and said, please don't rob me. The point is, security actually has some very concrete implications on your lifestyle, especially as the assets become more and more valuable. The other challenge that there is with Bitcoin is that once you have the private key, you pretty much can do whatever you want to. There are very few inherent native safeguards. Usually in banks there will be multi-sigs and so on, and various different blockchains are starting to build those safeguards in, but often people don't use them or they're hard to use. And the problem then of course is that if you have an unintended transaction, you can't reverse it, because again, there's no one to call and reverse it. You're on your own. And if all of that wasn't enough, the other big challenge is just simply operating the damn thing. Nowadays, it takes 3 days to synchronize the Ethereum node, and if you're running Bitcoin on top of that, and look, there's only about 1,500 assets and counting, it's going to get worse and worse. So what was possible to operate on your laptop over a 2G connection, I think that was the benchmark for Bitcoin, increasingly that's a long distant dream. Nowadays you have server farms, and it's all very semi-centralized, dare I say. Anyway, so it's just difficult to run loads of different software nodes, have loads of different software wallets, keeping keys between those wallets. It's a full-time job. And on top of that, we now see increasing legal, regulatory, and tax rules, which are multi-jurisdictional in nature that have to be adhered to in order to operate. It's hard, and it's onerous. So what are the existing market solutions out there that we can rely on? Well, actually, the good old one that started this all off was good old paper. I know it's kind of weird that we have all this advanced technology and we revert to paper, but it works. You print out your private key on a piece of paper, stick it in the safe, and then when you're ready to send some money, you take it out, scan it with your phone, and you send the transaction. But paper has this annoying tendency to get damaged. It can be stolen. The software used to scan the QR code can have malware, which steals the keys, and you have to worry about backups. And again, there are no safeguards. Once you have the key, you can do whatever the hell you want to do. To make your life a little bit easier, you can store something in a software wallet. Actually, phones today are getting more and more secure. The latest phones like iPhone have secure elements. The problem with the secure elements is that they don't sign the same curve as Bitcoin and Ethereum do. So you then revert to old software solutions where the keys are stored in the software rather than in a secure element, which is not that safe. Phones get damaged, lost, or stolen. They can have malware. You still have to worry about backups. And again, typically there are no safeguards. So now a very popular solution that people use are hardware wallets. Hardware wallets are much harder to hack because they effectively have a much smaller attack surface. They have a very narrow API that you can talk to. The keys are stored in the secure element, but you still need to worry about device damage, loss, and theft. You still have to worry about backing those keys up. And also, of course, there are very few safeguards. Once you have the PIN and unlocked your ledger, Tesla, whatever it is, that's it. There are no controls. So people are starting to, in this decentralized world, rely on centralized authorities, I know. It's a little bit difficult. And they reuse their exchange trading accounts as custody accounts. The problem is, of course, the trade accounts were never designed with custody in mind. They operate under an omnibus structure, which means that you send money to an account that belongs to, let's say, Coinbase, and loads of people send them money to the same address. And then Coinbase has a subledger, they know whose money it is. But now you have to go back and trust again the subledger to make sure that the records are correct. And of course, if the exchange for some reason uses their assets on the trading accounts to trade off, then of course you also have credit risk. So the state of kind of play today in terms of security often is cold storage. And cold storage has this beautiful notion about it. Usually people talk about Swiss mountains, bolts, maybe even satellites, maybe a little bit of James Bond guy, always with lasers and stuff like that. And there's a guy that takes an instruction over the phone, writes it down, walks into the vault, uses air-gap solutions and everything else, and offline key storage, and it's 48 hours comes out of this cave and submits the transaction. It's wonderful imagery. It makes me feel really secure. He goes for a skiing session as well. Problem is, it's a human. You can hack a human. Actually, a human is no better than a cable. In this case, data in, data out. I can start hacking the human. Humans have kids. They have desires. It's actually much easier to hack a human machine system. So, and also latency. If this guy decides to pop out for lunch and not sign the transactions on time, well, markets move fast, and you might be looking at latency of up to 48 hours. It's a good solution, but maybe not for everyone. So, we think there is a gap in the market, and what we're doing at Trustology is creating a technology called TrustVault, which is a custodial wallet. And TrustVault is a technology that is allowing us to create something what we call a custody account. So think of a custody account as a bit like a bank account. The technical definition of an account is an arrangement. You have an arrangement with us where we keep your keys safe and you instruct us to move money around. So how does it work? Actually, the technology is really, really quite complicated. We spent many months working on this. But the user experience is not. We're really proud of that. The simple individual custody account, we also have business custody accounts, but for the individual account, it's mobile first. So you install the application on the iPhone. We then go through automated KYC and AML onboarding checks. You then open an account with us by creating it first. And what we do is we create all the necessary private keys under the hood. You don't need to worry about it. And we give you back your public Ethereum or Bitcoin address. It's your address. There is no omnibus accounts. It's segregated. You can check on a public blockchain using Explorer like Etherscan, blockchain, all the transactions, but we keep the keys. So all of that is seeing a straight through pass on the KYC and AML side, allows you to open an account with us within minutes. The keys that are managed by your custody account are kept in something called a programmable hardware security module. Hardware security modules are a tried and tested bit of kit. They've been deployed by banks and military installations for years. And what they do is, it's a bit like a ledger, but a server in terms of, there's a secure element. So if you try to open the box or you try to unplug it, the keys are destroyed. Don't worry, we'll back them up as well, but they're destroyed. So stealing the box doesn't make sense. Trying to use atomic microscopes to look at the bits and bytes under the hood is difficult because you have to open the lid, so you can't do that, which triggers the self-destruct. And it has a very narrow API. You can ask for the key to be created, and then you can ask for a transaction to be signed. Keys never leave plain text, the HSM. And the HSMs have to be primed with multiple keys. So there's a ceremony of, let's say, 3 out of 5 smart cards protected by pins that are all managed by separate individuals. So that's an HSM. It's a very powerful piece of technology. Been tried and tested for a long time. And really what we do is we split the idea of an instruction and a transaction. So first of all, when somebody wants to instruct a custody account to send a payment, they send the instruction to us, signed by the private key on your phone. We validate the instruction to make sure it's correct, and if it is correct, we strip out your signature from the phone, and we re-sign the transaction with the keys in the HSM. So we convert an instruction into a transaction that we post and submit onto the blockchain. And because we effectively have this two-step process, we can now store the keys in the secure element of the phone. Therefore, we don't need a separate dongle, because we can translate the signature first. And because of the other separation, the separation between an instruction and the transaction, we now have this gap where we can actually start to put in safeguards, which you typically don't have with a normal wallet. So safeguards can be really, really simple. Whitelists, blacklists, time blocks, inheritance rules, eligibility rules. Are you allowed to send it to that individual? Or you can have escalated approvals if it's a corporate treasury solution. So you might say, if it's 10 Bitcoins, 2 people out of 5 have to approve. If it's a 100 Bitcoin transaction, 4 out of 5, and threshold with multi-sig scenarios. All those scenarios tend to be quite complicated, so one of the things we're trying to do is make sure we also support institutional client needs by having this complex set of conditions within support and controls. But ultimately, and I work for a custodian, it's very difficult to support a huge range of different controls. So we make our accounts programmable. Meaning that if you don't have the controls out of the box that you need, you can deploy your own code, because our custodial accounts are programmable. And just like on blockchain, we will enforce them immediately. So you can design your own rules, you deploy it to your custody account, but once it's deployed, you can't change it unless you follow a pre-agreed change process. So we inherit some of the ideas of blockchain, but we run it in a centralized manner. So how do we instruct the custody account? Well, when user client install your application on this phone with two-factor authentications, such as Touch ID or Face ID, we create the key inside the secure element, because the secure element is very hard to hack. It's a brilliant piece of technology. And what that application does is creates the instruction key and stores it in a secure element. Once it's in the secure element, when you create a new account with us, we remember the private key that was used to sign the account creation request. And then any subsequent transactions to move money or instructions to move money from the account to some other account, we check to make sure that they're signed with the same instruction. That way we verify that the transaction really comes from the custody account owner. Because sometimes you might lose your keys. It happens because you lost your phone. We've all done this before, or at least I have. And sometimes therefore you say, well, how do I change my signature to be the new recognized signature? So what we can do is once you buy a new phone, what you can do next is go through the process of identity checks. And once we've assured ourselves that you are genuinely the account holder, we will register the new keys on your new device as the authoritative signatures. So what I talked about was a kind of personal account, mobile first. If you're a business, of course, it's a little bit different. Most of the time you'll be using accounting software or SAP. So what you can do is use the application and then generate the instruction via an API. And what next happens is that we push notification to your phone. You then sign the transaction instruction, and we submit it, sign it with a transaction key and push it onto the blockchain. So we support two workflows: the mobile first, typically for personal use cases, and then business, which is API driven. So one of the biggest vulnerabilities we believe we have, and we talked about security a lot and we had a brilliant previous session, was this idea that of course we need to be super careful about security. And our biggest vulnerability is this period of time when we received the instruction, we verifying it, and then we're about to strip the signature and apply the transaction signature and submit it to the blockchain. That's a really dangerous bit of time. It's dangerous because this is what a hacker would naturally look to do so. Because previously all the transactions are digitally signed, so you have integrity and non-repudiation guarantees. And after they're re-signed, you have the same guarantee. But that bit in between, with no guarantees. So the reason we use a programmable hardware security module is because we can then treat code with the same level of security as the keys. We create digitally signed code that is deployed to the HSM. And in order to do so, you have to be physically present. So we have both cyber protection and physical protection of security guards in the data center. The code has to be signed with the correct keys, and the HSM has to be primed with the right ceremony of 3 out of 5, or whatever ceremony you wish to choose keys. So it's pretty stable. So you can see kind of very high-level architecture. You've got the APIs, the phone, the third-party apps, the programmable HSMs, and the blockchain. This is the technology that drives our accounts. But some clients say, you know what, we want to self-host a solution, but we want to run Trustful. So we're very happy to work with clients where either we license the technology and they're self-hosted, or we operate the technology and offer white label accounts, which are then branded by the operator. So personal accounts, just to give you a little bit of flavor, we're looking at them as individuals and joint accounts. Joint accounts gives, well, ability for 2 people to sign a transaction rather than just one. And then we're looking at supporting business accounts, which is looking at use cases like family office, funds, exchanges, OTC shops, miners, and existing custodians. Anyone who holds a lot of crypto assets may well benefit from those. We're going to start by launching end of this year with an individual account. Frankly, it has the least complex features, so we're going to start simple and build up the complexity, and we'll support Ether. And then soon after that, we will try to work as quickly as we can, and we'll add Bitcoin, ERC20 token, and other assets support as fast as we can, to be honest. And then we will start adding features so that we can enable new types of accounts. So in order to have joint accounts, we will support multi-user feature. business accounts, we'll look to support multi-sig, so this is thresholded multi-signatures. X amount of money, 2 signatures with Y amount, 4 signatures out of 5 signatures. And also, especially for exchanges and other custodians, the need for subledgering to reduce the cost of trades, because you can do book transfers and only send out the money when requested to an external address. The other thing that our clients have consistently asked for was additional level of assurance. So they want insurance for their assets under custody, and we're working with a number of brokers out in UK to see if we can find a good insurance policy. Our fees will be competitive, but I would say that. And we're looking at a combination of onboarding, monthly transaction, and assets under custody fees. And since I'm about to run out of time, I will leave you with a slide that hopefully will tell you that we're brilliant. We support all sorts of features, some of those displayed here for you, including NAV reporting, segregated accounts. It's wonderful. So if you're interested in this, please come and talk to me. Thank you so much for listening.